Imagine looking at planet Earth for the last time through a small oval window of a spaceship, watching entire continents slowly disappear as you drift away forever from the only home humanity has ever known. The journey to Mars is not just a scientific mission, nor just a technological advancement. It's an emotional, psychological, and historical rupture. For the first time, humans would leave Earth knowing that there might be no easy return, and that every second of that journey would take them to a world completely different from anything that has ever existed in human experience. Mars is not just a destination, it's a symbol of the next chapter of civilization. The journey begins long before launch. Years of physical and psychological preparation would be necessary. Astronauts would need to learn medicine, engineering, agriculture, extreme survival, and even advanced social skills, because for months they would live in a confined space with the same few people, with no possibility of escape, without nature, without rain, without natural wind, without the smell of planet Earth. Studies show that extreme isolation can cause profound changes in human behavior, including emotional and cognitive alterations. On a mission to Mars, emotional control can be as important as technical skill. When the rocket finally took off, the experience would be intense. Vibrations, extreme acceleration, deafening noise. In a few minutes, the crew would leave Earth's atmosphere and enter the absolute silence of space. Then would begin the longest and strangest phase of the mission, the interplanetary journey. Unlike in movies, there is no visible, constant, rapid movement. The spacecraft simply accelerates, then enters an orbital trajectory around the Sun. Earth begins to look like a distant blue star. Days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months. Psychological time can seem distorted. There is no natural day and night, only artificial cycles created by the spacecraft to maintain the crew's sanity.
The distance between Earth and Mars is constantly changing. In the best-case orbital scenario, the journey could last between 6 and 9 months using current technology based on chemical rockets. This means that during this time, astronauts would be exposed to deep cosmic radiation, something that Earth's magnetosphere normally blocks. This radiation can increase the risk of cancer, damage tissues, and affect the nervous system over time. Scientists are studying water shields, liquid hydrogen, and even artificial magnetic fields as possible solutions to this problem. Another gigantic challenge would be prolonged microgravity. The human body was not made to live without weight. Muscles begin to atrophy, bones lose density, the cardiovascular system changes. Astronauts need to exercise for several hours a day just to reduce these effects. On a trip to Mars, this would be a mandatory daily routine. Without it, a person could arrive on the planet physically unable to walk normally. Inside the spacecraft, everything would need to be recycled. Water would be constantly filtered and reused. The air would be regenerated by removing carbon dioxide and adding oxygen. Food could partially come from hydroponic systems within the spacecraft itself. Every gram transported from Earth costs energy and money. Efficiency would be key to survival. But perhaps the greatest challenge isn't physical, it's mental. Imagine months without seeing a blue sky, without feeling a natural wind, without walking freely. Just metallic corridors, digital screens, and the constant sound of life support systems. Communication with Earth wouldn't be instantaneous either. Depending on the orbital position, messages could take up to 20 minutes to arrive. Real-time conversations simply wouldn't exist. Each message would be sent into the void, waiting for a response almost an hour later. The spacecraft would also need to be prepared for emergencies without external help. There is no quick rescue in deep space. If something breaks, the crew needs to fix it.
If someone gets sick, they need to treat them. The mission to Mars would be, in many ways, the loneliest journey ever undertaken by humanity. As the spacecraft approached Mars, another critical moment would occur: entry into the Martian atmosphere. Even though it's thin, the atmosphere still creates extreme heat during descent. Heat shield systems, supersonic parachutes, and retro rockets would be necessary for a safe landing. This moment would be known as the 7 minutes of terror, because everything happens too fast for direct control from Earth. When they finally touched down on Martian soil, the reality would be brutal. Freezing temperatures, gigantic dust storms, an orange sky, and absolute silence. Mars is not a friendly planet. It's an alien desert. Even so, there's something profoundly human about the idea of going there. Since the beginning of history, humans have crossed unknown oceans, climbed impossible mountains, and explored territories where no one had gone before. Mars is just the next natural frontier of this infinite curiosity. But unlike the great navigations of the past, this journey is not just about discovery. It's about the survival of the species. Many scientists believe that spreading humanity across more than one planet may be essential to ensuring our civilization survives catastrophic global events. Mars may not be the final destination. It may only be the first step towards something much bigger. Perhaps one day humans will travel to Jupiter's moons, to distant exoplanets, or even create giant habitats in deep space. But it all begins with this journey. Months inside a spaceship, millions of kilometers from home, heading towards a red, cold, and silent world, awaiting the first chapter of human presence beyond Earth.
If traveling to Mars would already be one of the most extreme experiences in human history, living there would be even more challenging. Stepping onto the Martian surface wouldn't signify victory. It would only mean the beginning of the daily struggle for survival. Mars is a hostile planet in virtually every possible aspect. The atmosphere is extremely thin, composed almost entirely of carbon dioxide, incapable of sustaining human respiration. The atmospheric pressure is so low that liquids can boil at relatively low temperatures. Solar and cosmic radiation reaches the ground with much greater intensity than on Earth, since Mars lacks a strong global magnetic field for protection. And temperatures can drop to levels that would freeze equipment and structures if not adequately protected. The first humans would likely live inside pressurized habitats, structures that would function like small islands of Earth in an alien ocean. These habitats could be partially buried in the Martian soil for protection against radiation and micrometeorites. Some projects suggest using the Martian soil itself, the regolith, as a building material. Giant 3D printers could build structures using Martian dust mixed with special polymers, creating thick walls capable of blocking radiation. Inside these habitats, everything would need to be carefully controlled. Temperature, pressure, oxygen, humidity, all artificial. It would be like living permanently inside a space station, but with the difference that outside there's an entire planet that could kill you in seconds if something goes wrong. Every air vent, every sealing system, every pressure sensor would be essential to keep everyone alive. Food would be another enormous challenge. Bringing food from Earth indefinitely would be unfeasible. The solution would be to grow food on the planet itself. Pressurized greenhouses could use artificial light or filtered sunlight to grow vegetables. Hydroponic and aeroponic systems would allow planting without terrestrial soil. Scientists are even studying genetically modifying plants to grow better in Martian conditions.
Imagine green fields growing inside transparent domes surrounded by an endless red desert. Water would likely be extracted from Martian subsurface ice. There is already evidence of large ice deposits below the surface. Drilling equipment could extract this ice and transform it into potable water, oxygen, and even fuel. On Mars, local resources would be everything. Each mission would need to be as self-sufficient as possible. But living on Mars wouldn't just be a physical challenge, it would be psychological. Colonists would live knowing that Earth is millions of kilometers away. The sky would never be blue. The horizon would always be red or orange. There would be no oceans, natural forests, or rain. The concept of nature would change completely. The idea of home would have a whole new meaning. Over time, colonies could grow. Small bases could become closed cities. Tunnels could connect habitats. Underground systems could protect larger populations. Perhaps decades later, children born on Mars would begin to exist. Humans who have never personally seen Earth. Humans adapted to lower gravity, about 38% of Earth's gravity. This could affect bones, muscles, and even body development over generations. There's even the idea of terraforming, slowly transforming Mars into a planet more like Earth. This process would take centuries or millennia. It would involve releasing greenhouse gases to warm the planet, melting polar ice to release water and atmosphere, and perhaps using giant technologies to generate an artificial magnetic field. Today, this is still more theory than reality, but it is already being seriously studied. Another fascinating point is that Mars may hold secrets about the origin of life. In the distant past, Mars had rivers, lakes, and perhaps shallow oceans. If microbial life ever existed there, or still exists hidden underground, finding this life would completely change our understanding of the universe. It would mean that life can arise in many places, not just on Earth.
The colonization of Mars would also change human culture. New identities would emerge. Perhaps one day there will be Martians in the cultural sense, people who were born, grew up, and lived their entire lives off Earth. New forms of art, philosophy, and science could be born from this completely different environment. Travel time should also evolve with future technology. Nuclear thermal engines or advanced electric propulsion could reduce travel to a few months. Even more advanced concepts, such as nuclear electric propulsion, or even theoretical ideas like giant solar sails and fusion engines, could completely change space exploration. But even with all the technology, Mars will always be a difficult world. It won't be easy. It won't be comfortable. It will be a place where every mistake can be fatal. Still, humans will probably go. Because exploration is part of our nature, because looking to the sky and wanting to go beyond has always been part of human history. Perhaps in the distant future, Mars will not just be a scientific base. Perhaps it will be an entire civilization. Illuminated cities under giant domes, underground trains crossing Martian continents, giant observatories gazing at even more distant stars. Mars may be the first step in transforming humanity into a truly spacefaring species. And perhaps one day, someone born on Mars will look at the Martian sky, see that small blue dot called Earth, and feel exactly the same as we feel today looking at the stars. Curiosity, hope, and the infinite desire to explore the unknown.